I'm 5'4".
That's short.
You're short.
No, I'm 6'1", but I do shorts.
The only shorts I like are short ribs.
Now I know a lot of you watch my long form videos, but did you know I do shorts? I do a lot of them actually. In fact, I do 3 a week. And if you're not watching shorts, you're really missing out. These are meant to be watched on your mobile device, and they're jam-packed with information, and they're a little bit quicker. So I thought I'd give a little bit of taste of what's going on with YouTube Shorts and this channel. All we need to do is to rotate this screen so that we can check out some of these shorts in this compilation video. So let's get to it. What in the heck is this? Well, it's one of my favorite woodworking clamp accessories. Wood glue is the enemy of clamps, so inevitably you're going to have dried wood glue on your clamps, making them almost unusable. And you could try to remove that wood glue with your fingernails or a banger chisel, but frankly, that's way too much work, unless you want bloody fingers. And that's why you need one of these. These are simply PVC tubes with an end cap on one side. On the other end, you'll find another cap that allows you to save the liquid inside for months. And the only thing that's inside those tubes is white vinegar. Simply remove the handle of your clamp and drop it into that solution. And you can leave that clamp in there for as little as 30 minutes or as long as 24 hours. Wait a few hours and you'll be amazed at the results. All the glue will be completely removed, or you can wipe it off with a rag. Put the cap back on and save that vinegar for next time. Have you ever attempted to make a sketchy cut like this without using a push block? That's a really quick way to end your relationship with the decimal system. And the only time I ever consider making this cut is when my push stick or push block is out of reach. And that's why I just got the Mag Switch Saver push block. Let's take a look at this. This is a boot style push block with a replaceable MDF base. These boot style push blocks not only give you support at the back of the workpiece, but also all along the top. And with the offset handle, you can see how it cradles your fence for those thinner rips. But the real power of this tool has everything to do with storage. And that's because this tool comes with a base with corresponding notches so that you can easily store your push block. And on the back of the base, there's adhesive strips so that you can easily place it right on top of your fence. With the push block on your fence, this tool is always within reaching distance, making each cut just a little bit safer. This has got to be one of the coolest inventions I've seen for cordless power tools in a long time. These are the Siener lithium-ion interchangeable battery packs.
Siener? I barely know her.
Well, you probably don't know her either. Let's check her out. This system comes with an 18-volt battery pack that's easily charged with a USB-C port. The secret to this product are the adapters that sit on top of that battery. These adapters have the same layout as many of your popular brands like DeWalt and Milwaukee. By sliding that adapter onto the battery pack, you instantly create a brand-specific battery. And by using that same battery pack, you can attach adapters for almost every single major brand, including DeWalt, Makita, Milwaukee, Bosch, Craftsman, Works, Porter Cable, and even Black & Decker, making the battery infrastructure for your tools just a little less important. You know what I hate?
Tell me.
It's going to the hardware store and not knowing what the hell I need. Sure, we can go with our pants down at our ankles loaded up with bolts, but there's a better solution than that that's a lot less embarrassing. And this solution costs less than $19. This is the Imperial and Metric Thread Checker. Other than looking like a sex toy, this unique device has got some great features. You'll first notice there's a black side as well as a silver side. The black is a metric and the silver is imperial. You'll also notice there's a male side as well as a female side, so depending on whether you need a nut or a bolt, you can figure it out with this accessory. But not only do we need to know the size of our nuts and bolts, but we also need to know what type of threading they have. And that's why each size comes in a pair of both coarse and fine threads. And by checking the size and thread, you can save yourself the embarrassment of having your pants fall down at the hardware store. What if I were to tell you I found a tool that works just as effectively as the domino joiner for 12% of the cost? Say what? That's right, this is a tool that's completely overlooked and I can't believe more people aren't using it. This tool is the dual spindle dowel jointer. And coming in at $150, this may be a great first step before you purchase that domino joiner. Let's take a quick look at how this thing works. Instead of using dominoes, this tool can accommodate almost any size dowel. And the tool operates in the same fashion as the domino joiner. But instead of plunging a mortise for a domino, this tool creates 2 dowel holes at once. Simply take the wood that you want to join, strike a line down the center where you want the joinery to be, set the angle of your fence and lock it down, adjust the height of your cut depending on the thickness of your material, line up your jointer with the lines you struck, and plunge that jointer just like you do with the domino joiner. After that, you can add your dowels and everything comes together seamlessly. So not much has changed with tape measures over the years. Sure, some may be easier to read, and some might be digital, and some might even try a new design. But what about that new one that I'm sure we've all seen, the Tomahawk T1? Well, first of all, this is a 25-foot tape measure with a 15-hour constant use battery life. And this tool has an easy-to-read blade with a double-sided hook that's even magnetic. But let's take a look at what really makes this tape measure unique. First of all, this tape measure's got 2 screens, one showing you an active readout of your measurement, and a second screen that gives you a snapshot of any measurements you've captured. And that secondary display is on an e-paper design, which is very similar to what you see with the Kindle. The Recon also has an onboard laser so that you can perfectly line up your measurements. And probably one of its most impressive features is its Bluetooth connectivity to its app called the Rock. This app is completely in sync with the tool and it instantly allows you to capture measurements for your projects. Not to mention it's got a myriad of calculators that you can use in combination with the tools to get the results you want. Believe it or not, I found a new red square that's under $100. This square is the Milescraft MC150. Not only does it have a lip to support itself, but it's also completely reversible. You may have noticed there's a lot of holes in this square. The square has oval-shaped scribing holes running down the entire length, both on the inside and outside of the square. These are at every 1/4 inch and they're just as accurate as your woodpeckers. Need to draw a 30 or 45 degree angle? Well, this square's got you covered as well. With its 30 and 45 degree hash marks, you can simply strike a line at the angle you want. Then you just connect the dots and strike a line. And just like that, you can see how accurate that measurement is. But what about that archway? Well, let's take a look at that. This arch gives you every degree angle from 0 to 90 degrees in 5 degree increments from the pivot point in the center of the square. And lastly, we can use that pivot point with a nail to scribe out a circle using any of the hash marks on the square. With a nail and a writing utensil, you'll get perfect circles every time. Multi-tools are tools that not every woodworker owns. And I totally get it. I balked on getting one of these for years. But it was a recent project that I did that I learned how valuable this tool can be. And at less than $100 for this Ryobi one, I'm not sure how I lived without it. Let me show you why I think this tool is so fantastic. 90-degree cuts like I needed to make on this trim were a breeze with this tool. Not only that, but I was easily able to place this blade into tight spots that I couldn't get to with any other tool. And you can even use this little guy for finish work. Ever needed to flush flush cut a dowel without tearing up the finish on your wood? And once that dowel's removed, you can really see how this tool got its name. With just a simple flip of the switch and a removal of the pin, you can easily transform this tool, adding different accessories to accommodate almost any need you have, even converting this tool to a triangular cordless sander for either cleaning up those dowels or getting into those tight spots, making this one of the best tools that I never knew I needed. Summertime is just around the corner, and before I got this magnificent beast, I used to sweat like a pig in my shop. And because of this, many of my cast iron surfaces are littered with rust spots. But today, I'm going to take care of all that. The first item we'll need is some regular WD-40. Once we've loosened up that rust, we can sand it off with some 400 grit sandpaper. We'll do a quick dusting of our cast iron surface to make sure there's no debris. Once everything's cleaned off, we'll then apply a generous dose of WD-40 on top of that surface. I like to let the WD-40 soak in for about 5 to 10 minutes. Now it's time to grab that 400 grit sandpaper and attach it to your sander. Apply gentle, even pressure with your sander across your entire cast iron surface. Once you've done a little sanding, clean off any excess WD-40. With one side done, you can see the remarkable difference between one side and the other. Grab some paste wax and a Scotch-Brite pad. Rubbing in just a little bit of paste wax will give you the protection you need to help prevent future rust. Have you ever looked at the prices on these things? It's insane. These two squares, when bought in a set, cost $230. So I got on a mission to find a cheaper alternative, and I found one. These are the eye gauging bench squares, coming in at just under $80. These squares have a slightly higher stature, coming in at 7 and 4 inches versus the 6 and 3.5. And both squares have the same layout of scribe holes at every 1/8 of an inch. And each square has a lip that allows you to measure out 1/4 inch, 3/8, as well as 1/2 inch. But the eye gauging bench square has a couple of features that the woodpeckers just doesn't have. If we look at the body of the eye gauging square, you can see there's two triangles. These allow you to quickly scribe out 45 and 30 degree markings. If we flip the square on end, you'll notice there's measurements running down the entire base of the square. This is perfect for setting up things like your table saw or your router table. And at a price at just 34% of those delve squares, this is a brand that just can't be ignored. So if you're just starting out in woodworking, you may be a little bit overwhelmed with how many different types of wood glues there are. But let's simplify it and talk about where to use each one. There's really only 4 differences between all these glues. The first and most important is the open time. The shortest open time is Titebond 2 Premium. This gives you about 3 to 5 minutes. Next up is Titebond Original, giving you approximately 4 to 6 minutes. And if you really need some extra time, you're gonna have to go with Titebond 3 Ultimate. This will give you approximately 8 to 10 minutes. The next thing you need to consider is whether or not your project is indoors or outdoors. And there's really only 2 wood glues for this, Titebond 2, which is weatherproof, and Titebond 3, which is waterproof. And it's Titebond 2 and 3 that are recommended for projects that come into contact with food. And the last thing to consider is what color is it when it dries. And those colors are clear, yellow, orange, light brown, and dark brown. So we've all seen them before, the popular knockoffs of woodworking clamps like Kreg. But what really is the difference between these two clamps, as you can get 2 of the knockoffs for the price of 1 Kreg. Both clamps have a similar jaw system with a faceplate on one side and a 2-inch pin on the other. And they both function in the same way, by sliding the pin into the pocket hole and the face clamp on the opposite corner. Really, the only discernible difference that I see has to do with the tensioning system, as most of the knockoffs use a standard screw system to increase and decrease the tension with a tab to release, while the Kreg uses a proprietary system called the Automax. Micro adjustments can be made to the tension of this clamp using the small screw on the base of the handle. But you really shouldn't need to make adjustments to this clamp that often, as the Automax system is designed to automatically adjust the tension depending on what thickness of wood you're working with, while the knockoffs will require you to adjust the tension every time you change out the thickness of your material. So one of my favorite tools that I've ever purchased from Ryobi is my Airstrike brad nailer.
I barely know her. Oh!
But I've recently upgraded to a new nailer by a brand that I don't think anybody's heard of. And this brand is Linknail. Linknail is a company that only makes one thing, affordable brad nailers. One of the reasons they're so affordable is you can get this entire set complete with 2 batteries for less than the Ryobi. But cost isn't everything. Let's take a look at its performance compared to the Ryobi. The first thing that you'll notice is the weight, with the Linknail being just over 3 pounds with the Ryobi at 5. Both of the nailers have LED lighting, nail depth adjustment, as well as the rapid fire feature. But the real difference between these 2 nailers is all about speed. Let's fire 3 nails with each gun in real time. And the difference in weight and the speed of this nailer has made this my new go-to nailer. So I just cut my hand on a SawStop 300 horsepower professional table saw. You ask me how? Well, let me show you. So be safe in the shop, y'all. I want to show you a dust collection accessory that I think is indispensable for any small shop. Let's start off at the router table, which I have hooked up to an ordinary shop vac. Shop vacs like this are perfect to be connected to vacuum switches like this iVac switch box. If we look at the switch box, you'll notice that it has 3 outlets as well as a switch. You'll also notice it has 2 plug-ins for your wall. Let me show you how it works. First off, we'll take the vacuum and plug it into the vacuum outlet. After that, I'll take my router and plug it into the tool power. Then I'll take the 2 plugs for the switch and plug them into the wall. Now with everything connected, I can now switch that switch on that switch box to auto. And now every time I turn on my router, my vacuum will automatically start. Not only that, but the vacuum will stay on for approximately 5 seconds after turning your tool off to clean up any remaining debris. And with the switch's auxiliary outlet, you don't give up any plug-in capacity. So you finally saved up enough money to buy that brand new track saw. And hopefully that saw came with at least one track that's at least 55 inches long. But 55 inches will get you through the width of a 4x8 sheet of plywood, but not the length. So then it's a matter of hitting the interwebs trying to find a piece of track that will span the entire 8-foot length. Just look at the price of this 110-inch Festool track. That's outrageous, and nobody should be spending that type of money on track. So I Googled deep and I found a track that's 17% of the cost of that Festool track and works with most major brands. This is the Wen system and it's $69 for 110 inches of track. And the design of this track is essentially identical to the Festool. It's even hard to tell the difference on the underside of the track. If we flip the tracks around, you can see they both have a foam pad to secure the track to your workpiece and also a cutting guide for the saw. But with a Wen, you're going to get 2 pieces of 55-inch track at a fraction of the price of 1 piece of the Festool track, giving you 110 inches of usable track. Let's take a look at a new tool that's unlike any other tool you've seen before. This little unique contraption is called the Morgan Square. Let's take a closer look at how this thing works. If we look at the tool closer, you'll notice a lot of tabs and clips. Let me show you what those are for. The clip on the bottom is the onboard storage for your carpenter pencil. The tab on top is where you attach the clip on your tape measure. With your tape measure and pencil in place, you simply slide the blade of your tape measure underneath that last tab. If we look at the ruler of the Morgan Square, you'll notice it's the exact same thickness as a 2x4 at 1.5 inches. And that's what makes this tool perfect for framing. Simply take your square and slide it over the edge of your workpiece. Then take the center line of the tool and line it up with your 16 on center. Then it's just a matter of striking your lines where that 2x4 will land. After that, it's just a matter of continuing down the line. So what's the difference between those Kreg corner clamps and those cheaper ones we see on Amazon? Well, I bought them both, so let's check it out. If we take a look at the 2 clamps together, you can see their clamp faces are quite similar. They both have an L shape on the interior and exterior of the clamp. The only functional difference between those 2 clamp faces is a little notch that's cut into the Kreg. This notch is to give you a little bit of extra clearance when you're driving in your screw with your Robertson bit. The only other functional difference between these 2 clamps has to do with how you adjust the tension of the clamp. The knockoffs have a screw tensioning system while the Kreg has an Automax system. Don't know what that Automax system is? Well, let me show you. The Automax system automatically adjusts the tension of the clamp so you can go from one thickness of material to another without any adjustments. But even though this clamp automatically makes adjustments, you can also make micro adjustments with a small knob on the handle. And that's about it. So depending on your needs, you can decide whether or not you want to spend $50 for the Kreg or $21 for the knockoff. Are you tired of carrying around 3 different hammers with you wherever you go?
Yes, I am.
These can take a heck of a lot of space in your toolbox. So I found a 3-in-1 hammer that may save you some space. This is the 3-in-1 ball pang hammer. This is a weighted hammer with metal BBs that could be used as a maraca. This hammer comes with 3 different magnetic heads that range from hard to soft. You simply select the heads you want and hammer them into place. Gently slide the tip into the head and give it a whack. Whammy! With one tip in, you simply repeat the process on the other side. Whammy! To remove a tip, you simply take the metal bar and place it on the lip of the tip. With another whack, that tip is removed. And that same metal bar can be used to store your tips when not in use. Would you believe it if I told you you could make a box with a bandsaw and 6 cuts? Let's get to it. The first step is to create a rough layout of your project. Next up is to cut out that project. On our second cut, we'll cut the back off at 3/8 of an inch. Third cut is to cut out the drawer. Next up, glue the kerf. Next up, we remove the drawer and cut off the front and the back of the drawer. Next up, cut out the interior of the drawer. Next step, glue the back and glue the drawer. Sand it, stain it, glue on a handle, apply some finish, and then you have a beautifully made 6-cut bandsaw box. What would you say is the most used item in your shop? I bet most of you wouldn't say a writing utensil. And some of these utensils can be quite expensive. In fact, my beloved Fat Boy costs more than $17. So I was on a mission to find a more affordable set, and I found one by you know what. This is the Neek Pro Carpenter set. Not only does the set cost only $6 more than the Fat Boy, but this set is an 18-pack. This set comes with 3 2.8mm pencils, 3 2mm pencils, a center hole punch, an awl, an eraser, as well as 3 sets of 2mm lead, 3 sets of 2.8mm lead, a 2.8mm sharpener, a 2mm sharpener, and finally a replacement for the center hole punch. Not only that, but the larger 2.8mm pencil has an interesting feature. By unscrewing the end, it reveals a pencil sharpener so that you can get your points refined. And the scribing tool and center hole punch are all metal construction, giving you accurate markings and punches. Using a wrench in woodworking is not all that common, but for some reason I've accumulated a lot of these over the years. Some only have a few set positions. Some look like they came from my grandpa's tool chest. Some are hard to adjust. Some slip on you every time you use them, and some are futuristic but may not be that practical. And on this channel, I like to feature new tools, but there's an old one that I keep on going back to. In fact, this tool is so old, I didn't even purchase it. My dad did. This tool is the Craftsman RoboGrip, circa 1980. Even though she's got some age on her, this is by far the most used and usable wrench in my shop. The key to this wrench is its automatic locking capabilities. Let me show you how quickly and firmly this wrench can adjust to any width. 1/4 inch, 3/4 inch, and even an 1.5 inch material all lock into place without any adjustments with the wrench, making my 2 RoboGrip wrenches my go-to wrenches for any project in my shop. Recon or a Sigamet? Which one should you get? Neither, mine works just fine. Well, if you are in the market for one, there are some distinguishable differences. The Sigamet has a dual-sided tape measure while the Recon has a magnetic hook. The Sigamet comes with a padded carrying case, while the Recon comes with its own holster. The T1 has the ability to charge the tool without removing the battery, while the Sigamet requires you to remove the battery. The Sigamet has a length of 16 feet, while the Recon has 25. But the DTX does have a laser distance meter, which is something that the Recon just doesn't incorporate. And not only does the Sigamet have a laser distance meter, but it also has an incorporated level. But all these features with the Sigamet can make this tool a little bit confusing, as you can get lost on its multiple menus on its color LCD display, while the Recon simplifies things with one easy-to-read display on the top and the unique e-paper display that sits on the side. Not to mention the Recon has Bluetooth to connect you to its powerful app called the Rock. When's the last time you sharpened your chisels? Now don't you lie, because I'm guessing a lot of you are dealing with chisels that work about as well as a flathead screwdriver. For years, I dealt with dull chisels for one reason and one reason only. I hated sharpening these little bastards. Like most, I started off with the El Cheapo honing guide, but I just couldn't get the support I needed. With its small support wheel, this was a disaster in the making. And these rarely come with any sort of guide to assist you in setting up the angle for your bevel. So I made the natural progression into a high-end honing guide system like this Veritas. Not only did it have a big wheel for stability, but it also had a complicated accessory to assist you with your bevel angles. But I always found this a little bit difficult to use with all of its knobs and adjustments that needed to be made. Not to mention, this thing cost $130, but there's a much better design out there for less than $30. This set comes with a sharpening angle gauge, an angle fixture, as well as the honing guide itself. Not only do systems like this have a wide support for your blade, but they're also a breeze to set up. Set your angle, position your blade, and lock it into place. And in just seconds, you're ready to sharpen. So I just built 6 new cabinet carcasses for my shop. The first method I used was the old-fashioned glue and brad nails. After that, I threw together my second cabinet with glue and screws. On the third cabinet, I used the time-tested glue and pocket hole screws. And just for the hell of it, on the fourth cabinet, I broke out my domino joiner and put it together with dominoes and glue. So what did I learn during this process? Well, I actually learned a couple of things. First off, if you use brad nails and glue, it's stronger than you think. But what about glue and screws? Well, this is actually one of my preferred methods, as it eliminates the need for clamps as your glue sets. But there's one major problem with this method, as you're going to see those screws. But this issue can be entirely eliminated if you use it on interior cabinets. The next method I used was pocket holes. And this method was quick and easy and eliminated the need for clamps. And finally, I gave the dominoes a shot. And although everything went together very nicely, this was a real pain to set up. Aligning the tenons and cutting out the mortises made the assembly of this cabinet take almost 3 times as long. There are a lot of videos out there on how to perfectly sharpen your card scraper. And I've been playing around with a lot of these different techniques, and I think they're making it way too complicated. All I had to do was to go to the kitchen and steal a knife sharpener. First, let me show you the results I'm getting from this dull card scraper. So let's take this dust devil and make it into a wispy shaver. The first thing that I'll do is I'll attach a wooden screw clamp to my bench. After that, I can slide my scraper into that clamp and tighten it down. Once I have my scraper in place, I'll then take my knife sharpener and run it across the edge of that scraper at 90 degrees. And I'll do this until I get a nice flat, shiny surface on the edge. Then I'll grab an old screwdriver and remove that scraper from the clamp. After that, I'll take my screwdriver and run it across the blade at a slight angle to remove the burr on both sides. Then I'll grab my two-handled burnisher and head back to that screw clamp. Then I'll take my burnisher at 90 degrees to that edge and run it back and forth to create that final burr. With that new burr created, you can see the astonishing difference from before and after. So I just got into lathing. Let's call it wood turning. And Weber was kind enough to help me out with my first lathe. But after just a couple of weeks, I've learned 3 things that I think is important for anybody that's interested in purchasing a lathe. First off, I'm not so sure that length matters. Say what? At least with lathes. This Weber is 14 by 40, but I'm pretty sure I'll never go past 20. Secondly, there's nothing more scary than a loose tool rest. You never want to have a tool rest with any give. Even with this tool rest locked completely down, it still has a little bit of wiggle room.
I like to see you wiggle, wiggle, for sure.
And lastly, just like dealing with your drill press, pulleys are a pain in the butt. Even when the lathe has multiple speeds it can accommodate, are you really going to get under the hood and change those belts? And if you're like me, the answer is no. And that's why I've recently upgraded my drill press to a variable speed drill press. And I anticipate doing the same for my lathe. Well, thanks so much for joining me today on this compilation of some of my YouTube shorts. I release these every week on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and I have a lot of fun with them. Hit that subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment, and share this video, as it really helps out this small woodworking channel. Until next time, take care as always. I cook most of my meals in the microwave. It's also a great way to say hi when you're short.